So let's maybe go through quickly on this LSU one. We don't spend as much time, but what you got here?
Florida State wins, and I think the last 5 minutes of the game, you're not going to be sweating. I'll leave it at that because like you said, we'll touch on this heavily.
I did enough last year for that, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got Florida State winning going away. Again, we've talked about this. We've talked about LSU every single week of the offseason. There's the false narrative that LSU just got better and better and better as the year went on. I just think that's not true. It also completely discounts the fact that Florida State got better as the year went on. And Florida State won 7 straight games to finish their season. They didn't limp across the finish line against teams like Arkansas. They didn't get blown out at the end of the year by teams like Texas A&M. They didn't go get 50 scored on them. Florida didn't get 50 scored on them by Georgia. So, I think that you need you need to kind of look at the full picture. I don't think LSU really went on this magical run at the end of the year like people thought they did. I think they beat Alabama in the middle of the year, and that's what people remember. And then they won their bowl game, which was a terrible game against Purdue. But they kind of forget that LSU really very much squabbled down the end and wasn't great. Mason Smith's a big impact being out. I think the Noles win this. I think they win it going away. I think they win this by like 10 points. I've tossed around scores, and I'll give an official score prediction on Thursday night, but I've tossed around like 31-21, and I think I'd be pretty confident with that. Somebody just mentioned it, 200 on the ground in 7 straight games. The offensive line is definitely better. Trey Benson didn't have a very big impact last year in this game. I think he had like 1 or 2 rushes. So I expect him to go off. I think Florida State's going to win going away. We're at 1-0. We're in agreement. Richie, Southern Miss up next, Boston College after that. I think that Boston College game's a little bit sneaky. Southern Miss is on a short week, but I got the Noles winning both of those there. We'll kind of combine them. I don't think we need.
Yeah, they're going to win both games. The Southern Miss game I think is the trickier one because like you mentioned, it's a short week, and Florida State. Anytime we've opened on a Labor Day or a Sunday, and with a quick turnaround, that game is always, for whatever reason, it's tricky. But I do think Florida State wins both of those. And again, in the fourth quarter of each of those 2 games, I don't think there's anything to worry about.
Yeah, I think maybe even at halftime, BC going up on the road, never the easiest, but I think the Noles win going away up there. And then comes the big one in conference, Florida State, number 8, Clemson, number 9 right now. We'll see what those rankings look like when we get to week 4. But Florida State travels to Clemson on September 23rd. Richie, I'll let you go first on this one. I took this other Boston College ones. I gave you both the hard ones.
Yeah, man, it's been 10 years, 2013, since Florida State won up in Death Valley Junior. It's going to be a fun game. I'm just not sold on Cade Klubnik just yet. I think a lot of people are giving him his flowers way too early. He's got to show me something. I don't think they have much before then. And honestly, I think Duke could give them a run for their money the Monday after Florida State and LSU play. I have Florida State winning this game. I just think the experience of everyone that Florida State has, the average age of our starters has to be like 28 years old, right? These guys are AARP members. It's ridiculous. No, I do think Florida State wins this game. I thought they, outside of a really bad 8 minutes last year at the end of the first half and at the start of the second half, they probably should have won that game too. I think Florida State wins this game, and I think they leave September 4-0, and Florida State fans are feeling really good.
Woo, you're daring. All right, I don't want everybody to hate me, but I'm just going to say it. I've got Clemson winning this game until I see how week 1 shakes out. When we get to Clemson week, I very well may switch around and pick the Noles, win, loss, or draw against LSU. But as of today, I think I've got Clemson winning this game. I think that Clemson does a really good job of getting up for us. Even last year, I don't think they were a great team by any means, and they certainly came to play. Even DJ wasn't a good quarterback last year, and he even looked good against us. And so you're not going to catch them sleeping. You're not going to catch them napping against Florida State. Like, they're going to get up for that game. You might catch them sleeping against a team that they're not supposed to, right? Like a Syracuse or a Pitt or something like that. But I think that Clemson gets us in this game. Come out of September 3-1. Still a lot of excitement. Still a top 10 team. Clemson jumps you in the rankings, but I have the Noles dropping this one. I'll go first on the next one. You get the bye week. I've got us beating the bye week. And then you have Virginia Tech and Syracuse at home. Again, Richie, I'll do 2 here. Then we'll go solo the rest of the way out. But Virginia Tech and Syracuse, two of the worst teams in
Yeah.
the ACC. You've got a bye week before Virginia Tech. I'm sorry. So even if you do lose to Clemson, whether win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. It could be as physical a game as you want. You've got 2 weeks off to prepare for Virginia Tech coming back home. I will tell you, if you're 4-0 going to that night game against Virginia Tech is going to be absolutely lit, and I'm going to that one way or the other. But I think you're 3-1 into it. But I think you win both these games. I think you beat Virginia Tech. I think you beat Syracuse. You get to 5-1. Last year, Florida State couldn't get to that 5th win until week 8. Remember, they were 4-0, then they were 4-3. Then they got to their 5th win against Georgia Tech in week 8. I think they get to their 5th win in week 6 this year. They back it up by 2 weeks. They get a win against Virginia Tech. I think they get a win against Syracuse. Both of them going away. I think the Noles are much better talent-wise. I think they're much better coached. I think Norvell will have them focused. Whether it's a heartbreaking loss at Clemson or a very emotional win, I love that the bye week is after Clemson. You can heal up from the physical wounds. You can also heal up from maybe some emotional wounds or some celebrating that you've done for the last week or so. I think it sets up really nicely. The Noles win both these games. So at this point, I've got them at 6-1. I can't imagine you have us losing to either one of these games.
No, both of these games are Jordan Travis second half ball cap and clipboard games, right? He's not going to be playing much of the second half at all because Florida State is going to have built a solid lead. I'm not saying the hangman games like we saw in 2013 against Syracuse at Doak, which is still one of the funniest pictures I've ever seen. But yeah, but these two teams are just really bad. Florida State's going to win both of them. And then welcome Duke for a third straight home game. And I'll let you start off on that one, TJ, because I think this one could be tricky.
I think that if you don't show up and play your best game, and Duke does show up and play their best game, they could look at keeping this game close in the 4th. I still think Florida State is way more talented, and it would be the kind of thing where Florida State I think could play mediocre for 3 quarters, and if they just put in a good 4th quarter, they probably win it by 10 or so. I think they're that much more talented than Duke. The big problem is that confidence is a hell of a drug. And if you let a team that you're more talented than stick around and they start to get belief and they start to play harder than you and you start to play tight because you're supposed to be blowing them out and you're not, that's how upsets happen. And so I see a scenario where Duke could come in and win this game, but I don't think that happens. I think Norvell's done a great job of keeping this team focused. I think that if you go into this game with 2 losses, say you've lost to both LSU and Clemson, I could see them kind of being down at times and not feeling like there was a lot to play for. But I disagree with that. I think you still play for the ACC championship. You still play for a spot in the New Year's Six Bowl. You still play for that 5-10% chance that you get into the playoff with 2 losses. I think it's very small. But so as long as they're focused and they're playing well, I think that Duke just won't have enough, and Florida State will find this to be a pretty easy win. I don't know. I feel like Norvell does a good job of getting the team up for games. Do they have mistakes? Are they perfect? Yes, they have mistakes. No, they're not perfect. But I don't worry about them falling asleep at the wheel with Duke coming to town.
Yeah, and I don't want to compare this year's team to 2013, but I do think the mentality is going to be very similar. Jordan Travis, Jared Verse, Trey Benson, Johnny Wilson, they all came back for a reason. And they're going to be ready to play every single week. Duke is a lot better than I think a lot of people realize. I think they should be preseason top 25. I'm a little surprised they're not. But again, it's a team Florida State should beat, and I fully expect them to beat them, especially with the game being in Tallahassee. There's no reason you should not lose that game. Florida State's going to beat Duke, and then they go on to take Snuggy Hill. I'll start off here, TJ. Florida State fans are going to celebrate a win over Wake Forest like they've never celebrated before. These years, this has been ridiculous. It's been asinine what Wake Forest has done to us in these past few years. But it comes to an end this year. And my goodness, I don't know. You talked about that Notre Dame game. Sam Hartman, my goodness, is he good. Glad we don't have to face him this year. Florida State is going to beat the hell out of Wake Forest. And I hope Mike Norvell's running trick plays up 42-3 in the 4th quarter. And just we need this one because Wake Forest having our number as the way they have, like if you started as a student at Florida State in, 2020 or 2019, I feel bad for you because Wake Forest was always an afterthought. Florida State wins this game.
Yeah, I think Florida State wins this pretty easily. I think that, there's a lot of hurt feelings with Wake Forest in a lot of aspects. I think that just, the fact that they beat you last year, they were the first team to knock you off in a game you just didn't look very good in. NC State, like I thought Florida State should have beat the NC State game. I'm going to
Yeah.
eventually stop bringing that up, but Florida State should have beat NC State. You let it get away. You really were toe to toe with Clemson, and except for that 8-minute stretch that Richie mentioned. But I think Wake Forest was the one team that kind of just beat you soundly. And even though you made it a one-score game late, I just don't think you ever really had a chance in that one. They dominated you really through the first 2.5, 3 quarters, and then kind of made it close late. I get it, but they did whatever they wanted, and so I think that there's some upsetness about that. There's some upsetness about how Wake's coach acted last year with the hurricane and everything that was happening that week, and we're not going to put our kids in danger and this, that, and the other. And then there's been some frustration with how Wake has handled this conference realignment stuff from their fans. So I think there is going to be some, it's funny to say it, but some celebrating after Florida State beats Wake, and I do expect it to happen pretty handily. I like the Noles to win going away here against Wake. It's tough to predict a team that's beat you like 6 or 7 times, how many times in a row, like Richie just mentioned, 3 or 4 times, to go up there and win by, double digits. But yeah, I'd take the Noles by like 17 in this at least. And that's before I've seen, the first 7 games of the year. So, all right, this is a tough one. This is a tricky one, Richie. I'll answer it first, but you've got on the road at Pittsburgh, November 4th. Weather's a concern here. You never know what that's going to be like in Pittsburgh this late in the year. Thankfully, it's early November, not late November, which I didn't really have a big fear of that since you obviously play the Gators in North Alabama late. But November 4th, on the road at Pittsburgh, I think they're an incredibly well-coached team. I think they're a super physical team. I like them a lot. But, again, I think this is a situation where Florida State has too much talent. And whatever's on the line at this point, say you have 2 losses and you're playing for the conference, playing to get back to Charlotte, or say you have 1 loss or no losses and you're still playing for the playoff, I think Florida State's just going to be incredibly focused at this point, and I just don't see a way where Norvell lets them lose a step here against Against Pitt, I think that Pitt is a good team. I just don't think they have enough talent to stay with Florida State this year with what they've lost. I don't really worry about Phil Jurkovec coming over from Boston College. I think Florida State's kind of had his number. It might be the first time we've seen him healthy, if he can stay healthy until November, but Pitt doesn't worry me a ton. It's certainly a place you could slip up, but I think the Noles stay focused, find a way to win this game at Pitt. I think it's an ugly game, uglier than you want. The Noles win by 9.
Yeah, man. This is the game I have circled. Like I said, that Wake Forest game means a lot. I don't know if anybody on this roster has beat Wake Forest. And I think you beat them handily. And all of a sudden, you got Miami next week, and what happened at Miami last year is great, but this seems like a trap game, and I think this is the one week where Florida State slips up. And the weather doesn't scare me a whole bunch. I think the average low on November 4th was 43. The average high is around 54 in Pittsburgh, but it's just an extremely well-coached team. They're very physical. I think this is the one game where Florida State slips up, and I have Pitt winning this one, actually.
Ooh, all right. So we both have us at this point with 3 games left. We're both 8-1, right? With 3 games left, we'll see if we can win it out the rest of the way. You mentioned the Miami game from last year. Listen, it's so hard to project what teams are going to be. I saw the rumors, or I saw the report from Kane Sport that Tyler Van Dyke is already banged up. And I remember Mario Cristobal playing him injured against us last year. So it won't shock me if his fractured finger and the rest of his body is out there playing against Miami of Ohio on Friday night, because I know that Mario likes to ride his guys into the ground. You think about the Trey Benson injury, but the list goes on with that clown show. But I think the Noles win here. I think they're just the talent gap is too much. I think that Van Dyke, if he can stay healthy, if Mario doesn't drive him into the ground, will probably have a better year this year than he had last year. But that's a big if. Mario obviously already going to play him week 1 injured, it seems like. I think that the Noles are better than Miami. I think they have less holes. I think Miami's still got a lot of talent on their team. I don't expect it to be 45-3 or whatever this year. I think it'll be maybe half of that, maybe a little closer there, maybe 31-14 or something. But I think the Noles win this comfortably, win it going away, and move to 9-1.
Yeah, and the one big positive we've heard about Miami is their offensive line room. I do think they will be very good there, but Florida State's very good on their defensive line. Mario Cristobal, he was not hired by Miami as a game day coach. He was hired to recruit elite talent. He's done a decent job at that, but not to the level they hope he would. And Florida State's just a better team, better players. I don't know where you would give Miami an edge anywhere on the field. Florida State is going to win this game. Like you said, TJ, it won't be 45-3. It might be like a 34-17, 34-21 type game. Florida State wins this game. I'm not worried about Miami at all.
Yeah, feel good about this. North Alabama, I'm not going to spend a lot of time.
Yeah, that's a win.
That moves on. I watched them last night. They weren't very good. I suspect they'll be even worse against Florida State. Richie got the same thing, I assume. No trip ups there.
Yeah, that's an easy win. But.
All right, and then we had 2 Gainesville. All right, so I think we both have us winning this game against the Gators. But so let's do that. I mean, we both have us winning this. Is it as close as last year, or do the Noles kind of blow this one open? What are your thoughts here?
Being in the swamp, I don't know. I think Florida, honestly, they could have 4 or 5 wins heading into this game, and they may have mailed it in on the season. So unless they surprise a lot of people and win games they shouldn't win, I just think there's a lot of hype for Graham Mertz outside of Gainesville, and nobody else anywhere in the country is buying that. Like the Wisconsin people are laughing at the idea that Graham Mertz could be a competent college quarterback. I'm just not concerned about Florida at all either. And, we think about games like 2013, 37-7, Florida State. You think about going to the swamp, that's a really tough place to play when they're good. When they're not good, that's not a tough place to play. We saw Dalvin Cook in 2015 run all over them when Roberto Aguayo kicked the game-winning field goal in the first quarter of the game in that 27-2 game. I'm not concerned about Florida at all. And this might get clipped and I might go viral for this, which is fine. But Florida State is the much better team and they're going to beat Florida. It probably won't be a blowout similar to the Miami game, maybe 31-23, something like that. Florida State beats Florida.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that, they hang a lot of their hat on the fact that they kept it close last year. And I think that, it's kind of unfortunate that they did. Florida State took a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter, and then their defense kind of let them down a couple of times, and they couldn't find a way to extend that. But the only reason it was close in the first half is because a couple of blown coverages. You move some defensive backs around, in the second half, and you were able to kind of clean all of that up pretty easily. So I think Florida State wins this going away. Again, I don't know that it's 45-3, but it wouldn't shock me if Florida State won this game by 17. I think that Florida State's defense is going to be a lot better this year. I think that Florida's offense is going to be a lot more one-dimensional. I think that, you lose AR. That kind of takes away the threat of the run pass at the same time. You kind of know a little bit more of what you're getting with Florida's offense this year. I think the Noles win it going away. So we both have 11-1, Richie. 11-1, both going to Charlotte. I would assume, at that point, there's no way that somebody else is in. Well, I guess if Pittsburgh's run the table, then that could screw us. But you got Pittsburgh.
I had to speak as Clemson, so we're in.
Oh, yeah, you're good. You're good. Here, let's give some love to my guy Shane here. Shane says, let's play a little noise here for him.
Fire up the war chant and plant the spear. Noles win. Noles win.
Tyler Van Dyke already banged up and the season hasn't even started. Yeah, so reports out that he has a fractured finger. Actually, the report said his thumb. My guy down in Miami says it's a fractured finger. It's not his thumb.
And real quick, TJ, I logged into my Bovado account, and Florida State is currently favored by 9 on the road at UF and favored by 15 at home against Miami. So we're not talking crazy here, guys. This is the reality of the state of Florida right now.
Wow. Also, if the feds are listening, he's got a Bovada account, y'all. Go get him.
Don't check my Venmo.
I take the Noles in both those spreads right now. I take the Noles 15 and I take the Noles 9. I would take both those. So I don't think that's crazy. You beat the Gators by, they rest a lot of their laurels on the fact that they kept it a 7-point game last year. And it's just that's embarrassing to be proud of that. But, congratulations. I'm happy for you for keeping it close. So, yeah, I really like, somebody asked, is there a spread with Pitt or is that what?
Not yet.
Yeah, I'd assume the spread with Pitt's like Florida State minus 4.5. I can Google that. Football odds. That's super early, and it's not like a rivalry, so I wouldn't be shocked if that's not up there yet. But I just Googled real quick to see if I could find this. Yeah, I don't see it posted anywhere just yet. I could be wrong on that, but Yeah, that's not one that it's not a rivalry. So a lot of times that stuff doesn't.
Yeah.
Super early. I'd like the Noles. Like, I mean, if you gave me the Noles minus probably anything up to a touchdown, I would like it.
Yeah, 6.5. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th best champion like odds to win the ACC. Their over under is 7, whereas Florida State's is 9.5. So Florida State's going to be a slight favorite there. I just don't know exactly what the number is. Anything 7 or less, I would certainly take. So, all right, Richie, we both got 11-1. You've got us in the ACC championship rematch with Clemson. You got us winning that too, or you got somebody else sneaking in there?
I mean, Louisville. Someone just commented. Terrell Medlock, yeah, Louisville's schedule sets up really nice for them to make a surprise appearance in Charlotte. I think it's going to be Clemson. But if we beat Clemson, as I predicted, and they drop another game, what a gift for Florida State that would be, because there's nobody outside of Clemson in this entire conference that worries me. I know I have us losing to Pitt, but I think that's more of circumstances than it is coaching or talent or anything along those lines. Yeah, man, Florida State, I'll just say 12-1, and they are in the college football playoff official prediction.
Oof. Yeah, I think they lose to Clemson regular season. They beat them in the rematch. So give me the Noles in Charlotte to end up getting the dub there. And yeah, college football playoff me 12-1. It probably won't shake out like that just because I've said it now. 13-0. But yeah, I like the Noles to find a way to get there. They just have too much talent. And, there's a lot of people buying FSU right now. At the end of the day, if Florida State's to go 10-2, 11-2, win the ACC, make a New Year's Six Bowl, finish up 12-2, certainly won't be upset by that, especially considering we won 5 games 2 years ago. But I think they've got enough talent to go out and do it. I think they've got enough talent to go really – I wouldn't even say shock some people, but, go finish what they started last year. So